Hey crafty friends, Christina here with you from Sunny Day Memories. We are back for another Crafty Copycat Creations for this month. And since it is the month of gift giving for the holidays, we thought we would do an origami-inspired gift wrapping idea. So it's going to be very personalized to your gift. I will show you how you can go ahead and figure out the measurements for your particular gift or gifts that you're going to do this with. But for today, I'm going to be walking you through wrapping some homemade dog treats in here using the super adorable Pet Love stamp set and dies set and the beautiful, let me make sure I get the name right, Elegant Pine Snowflakes pattern paper. It's so pretty with the deep rich hues in it. So let's go ahead and talk about how you come up with your measurements. So that way you kind of understand the concept before I walk you through my particular project here. Okay, so my project, like I said, I am going to be doing the dog treats. And so I am putting them in a cellophane bag here. And so I'm using the cellophane bag as my measuring tool for what I come up with my measurements for. So what you're going to do is you're going to measure how wide your item is that you're going to be putting in this. And so if you look, mine is 4 inches wide. And so I've done that on here, I've added 4. And then you're gonna want an inch on each side of it because we're going to go ahead and fold those inward, and you'll see when we get to that a little bit later. So you're gonna have a total of 6. So for mine, I want it to be 6 inches long. And then I generally would recommend that you start with your full 12 inches of paper. And so I needed to figure out the depth of mine, how wide my treats were once it was filled. So I filled up my dog treats in there, and then I went and measured how wide that was. And that was 1.5 inches. Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and take your 12-inch paper, because that's what I said we should start with, right? And you're gonna subtract 1.5 inches. When you subtract 1.5 inches, you come up with 10.5, and then you wanna divide that into 2. And the reason you wanna divide that into 2 is because you're creating this portion here for your gift to rest. So you want to figure out what that space is going to be so you can create your score lines, okay? And so when you divide 10.5 by 2, you get 5.25, and then you wanna go ahead and add back in that 1.5 inches that your project width is of my dog bones. And so that means I'm going to score it at 5.25 and at 6 3/4. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So again, like I wrote it out here, so I wanted to be able to showcase both sides of my pattern paper. So I am adding a 1/2 inch here on the bottom of my paper and another 1/2 inch on here. So that's why you'll see that it has 1/2 inch plus that 5.25 that we just came up with, and that 6 3/4 that we just came up with, and then 11.5, because when you subtract 1/2 from 12 inches, right, you get 11.5. So those are the measurements for scoring along the long portion here. Additionally, like I told you when we came up with that 6 inches wide, it was because it was 4 inches down the middle, and then 1 inch on the right and 1 inch on the left. So then you're gonna also score 1 inch on both of those. So let's go ahead and do that. I've already gone ahead and added my inch ones, so you can see there's a score line. I'm noticing now that this is really dark paper, and I didn't think about it, and so it is harder to see these score lines on it. But hopefully, as we start working on this, you can see it better. So now we're going to rotate and do the score lines along the long side. Like I said, when I'm doing small increments, I always start on the right-hand side of my paper trimmer. And so I'm going to start by doing that 1/2 inch one, and I'm going to go ahead and score that. And then I'm going to actually rotate my paper here, so that way I can do the next one, which is going to be 5.25. So I'm going to go over here to 5.25. And then I'm going to do 6 3/4. And then my 11.5. Or, like I said, I could do 1/2 inch over here on the right-hand side of my paper trimmer. Either works. So now I have all of my score lines all done. So now I just need to go ahead and burnish those score lines. Okay, so we've got these 1/2 inch ones, like I said, that we're going to fold back so that we can see that other pattern. Then we've got that middle section for the width of the dog treats that are going to go in there. We're going to have this panel on each, the left and the right hand side are going to go in. So you can kind of see it taking shape here, right? So this is like what it looks like at this point when you fold everything the way it's going to be folded. But the trick of this is that we are actually creating like a little basket here, little box almost, on the inside of here. And so in order to do that, we need to do some extra folds, some diagonal folds. So the easiest way you can do this, and I'm hoping that this is going to show up all right because this is dark paper, like I said, is you're going to go ahead on each of these outer points here where you've scored, I like to go ahead and I hold it with my finger, and my first finger and my thumb, and I am bringing it up to that score line here. Hopefully staying in focus here. And then I'm going to go ahead and pinch so that that way the inside piece here that's going diagonal, not sure if that shows up or not, that is getting pinched and creating that diagonal fold that we need. We're going to actually change the that in a moment, but for what we need, that's how we do it. So we're pinching that outer corner going up to that fold line. So we're going to do the same thing with this one. From that outer corner, going to hold it with our thumb and our first finger, and then we're going to go ahead and bring it up to that score line here and pinch so that they're getting a good fold on the inside here, that inside piece here. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, so now you've got those two diagonals on this side, and now we're going to do that same thing on the other side. You're going to go ahead and grab that outer corner. You're going to go ahead and bring it in to that fold line. So it's flush. Pinching on the inside to get a nice, good fold on that corner piece there. And then we're going to do that last one where we've got that corner piece. Go ahead and fold it up. I just need to rotate it so I can see it better. So we're pinching it and bringing it up to that fold line. Pinching it so you get a good fold. Okay, there we go. So now we've got all of our folds in place. All right, now we're going to be bringing in some tear and tape. I feel like the tear and tape is the strong, quick hold adhesive. So it's my adhesive of choice when doing something like this. And this is why I'm calling it origami-inspired, because origami traditionally stays together with the folds. And this would stay together with the folds, except then the basket portion's not going to stay as nice. And so we're going to go ahead and use some adhesive to hold things in place. So the first thing I would recommend doing is these outer corners. I like to go ahead and tack these down with a little bit of the tear and tape. So I'm just going up to where that fold line is there. So that way when I glue it down, then it will hold that together. I don't need to worry about this center panel because when I have these two outer edges glued down, it's going to hold that whole strip. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the two outer edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my piercing tool here, take off the backing, and then I like to always start in the center and then move out so it's a nice fold there. And I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. Now that we've got those glued down so that way we see both patterns for this, we're going to flip it back over because we are going to be doing some gluing here on the inside. So we are going to glue these two 1-inch pieces that we created. And the trick is you only want to have adhesive go up to where that diagonal score line is. You don't want it to go past that because then it's going to mess up the little basket or box portion in the center there, whatever you want to call it. So I start by putting a smaller piece here, and then I can add a little bit more on this edge. And I'll do the same thing for this other side. And we're going to actually only do one side, and then we're going to decorate, and then we'll do the other side. That way we have a flat surface to work with. So as you can see, both of them do not go past that score line that we created, those diagonal score lines. So we're going to go ahead and peel these backs off. Actually, we'll go ahead and glue this one down first. We've got that. Our second one. Bring this down. And so what this does is you can already see it. See how that box is taking shape when you go ahead and push it upward like this? Now you could go ahead and add adhesive on these two triangle pieces so that that box stayed in place. But what that's going to do is that's going to mean that this won't go flat again. And I kind of like that it could be reused if you wanted to, like the recipient could reuse it for another gift because it's not glued in a solid fashion. Like if once you put those adhesive on those triangles, then it's going to stay in that form and it's easier to get smushed, whereas it's nice and it can go flat and can be easily stored the other way. So I did want to just make sure this was kind of clear since this is darker paper. So I did get a lighter paper here and I drew some lines just so you can kind of see. So these are our two lines here that we have of the how wide your gift is going to be, and here's your diagonal. And I'm showing how you don't put the adhesive past that diagonal. So I just want that to really be clear when you're going ahead and working on that. So now, like I said, we're gonna go ahead and flip it over so that we can work on it while everything's all flat and everything. And we're gonna go ahead and create the front portion here. So like I said, am using the Pet Love stamp set and dies. It's super adorable. It's got images for both cat and dog in the die set. So I'm going a little bit more with the dog because these are dog treats in here. And so what I've done is I have gone ahead and I've cut out a 3-inch basic white circle with the Stylish Shapes dies. And that is what we're going to start with. And I'm going to show you a fun ombre trick here with your stamping, as well as like a selective coloring stamping here, so that hopefully if you haven't done this before, it is something new and that you can try with your own projects. So for that, we are going to be using Real Red and Cherry Cobbler, as well as our black Memento ink. Okay, so here's the stamp image, and then you're going to need a couple of sponge daubers for it as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with our black Memento, and I'm going to go ahead, and because these are clear stamps, you can see exactly where you're at and what you're working with here. So I am selectively getting the black on the I, tapping it on there, and then over the U. So they both have good ink coverage. You can tell this is a well-loved stamp. It's all kind of pink tinted. And then we're gonna go ahead and open up our 2 reds, our Real Red and our Cherry Cobbler. And like I said, we're gonna use them with sponge daubers to create this ombre effect. So we're gonna start with a lighter color and take our sponge dauber in the Real Red, and then go ahead and pounce that color on there until you get your word all covered and your quotation marks. Then you're gonna go ahead and with the Cherry Cobbler on the base part up as high as you want it to be, just to get some color on there. And then I recommend breathing over it, huffing on it so that it kind of moistens it. It'll kind of fog up your block. That just makes sure that all of your ink is nice and wet and will release onto your paper. So that way you'll have both the red and the black, but you'll have that nice ombre effect with the reds. So can you see how it kind of starts light with that Real Red and goes into the darker Cherry Cobbler? Then we're going to go ahead and take some pecan pie and we're going to stamp some paw prints. So I actually did a little stamp surgery with this because this image is actually 4 paw prints all together in a line. So I just went ahead and I bent the image so that way the images were kind of apart from each other, and I carefully snipped between 2 of the paw prints so that way I could have an individual paw. And this does not harm or hurt your images at all. It just gives you more versatility. So if you've never thought to do that, you might want to give it a try. So I am stamping 2 individual paw prints down here on the left corner. And then I have die cut several images from this set. I have the in the pretty peacock here, and then I've got this is the collar, and then I've got the little buckle for the collar in the black, and then I did the heart shape here, which is actually meant to be the little what do I want to call it, that hangs from the dog theme that usually that has their little name on it. Not for the life of me, I can't think of the name right now, but I'm going to show you how you can just snip off that so you can use it just as a heart, and then I've done a dog bone in the crumb cake. So I'm going to go ahead and take a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to slowly and carefully cut along the dotted portion here so that I can cut right off the little loop so that it takes the charm, that's what I wanted, charm, the dog charm. And so now it's just a heart here. And so then I'm going to go ahead and attach the dog bone across the heart, and I'm going to attach the buckle onto the collar here. And a little tip that I will give you, because I did not actually realize it till more recently, I had been gluing this on full like this, but then I noticed that there are score lines. There are 2 score lines on it. So it actually does fold and become a little bit more dimensional. Like if you look at this one versus this one, it looks so much cuter, doesn't it? So just a note, if you, like me, had not realized that, go ahead and fold it and glue it onto itself around the little collar, because then it looks really cute and lifelike. So I've got my collar here, I've got my little buckle, And I actually put some of that adhesive sheets behind it because it makes it easier to work with these dies, because some of them are a little bit smaller and intricate. So it's already sticky. So I go ahead and I stick it in the center there. And I really don't know. I think that the score line is showing up for you guys. Then I go ahead and fold. And I might not get it perfectly on the score line, but I'm getting the idea there. And so I'm going ahead and folding it. That one went a little bit bigger than I wanted, but that's okay. Okay, so then I'm gonna go ahead and use some 3D foam, some dimensionals on here to raise up the collar. And then I'm gonna glue down my heart. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. So we're gonna go ahead and go back to our piece here, and we're gonna add our 2 strips of the tear and tape to finish off this other side. So we know it's ready to peel and do, oops. And you can actually glue this down before I glue that all together, just so I know that it's going to work out okay. So I'm putting 4 of the Stampin' Dimensionals on it to raise it up. And I'm having it towards the base of my gift wrapping here. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and peel these off. Stick that down. Flip it over to this side. Okay, and see, then it's just almost like magic. That little box goes into play as you do that. So then you would go ahead and you'd put your dog treats in there. And then to finish it off, to keep it held closed, I have, let's see, 24 inches of our Real Red ribbon. And I love this because it's got like a little touch of gold in it. Hopefully that's showing through. It's just so pretty. So Barb in her video last week had done like a fold over aspect to hers, but I wanted to have mine more upright like this because of the treats were almost as tall as the wrapping. And so I thought to just go ahead and take a piece of ribbon and just go right below this cuff that we created and then tie it in a cute little bow on the side here. And then that way also that red then really pulls out the red berries in the paper, as well as the heart and the woof, I woof you. So there you have it. Super cute project. Very customizable gift wrapping. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you will now be able to figure out how to do it for your own packages, your own gifts. And remember to share in our public Facebook group. And that way we can all enjoy it and cheer you on in our Crafty Copycat Creations Facebook group. So you can just search that. And be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel so that way you don't miss future videos. And until next time, stay crafty.